Hi everyone, welcome to the Productive Mind podcast. My name is Shyam and I'm here joined by Andrew Panna. As college students, we're exploring innovative ways to enhance productivity, maintain motivation, and cultivate a well-balanced and healthy lifestyle. Join us as we interview professionals from diverse career paths to gain insight into leading a more productive and healthy life. We'll also address specific topics such as time management, organization, goal setting, and more. Before we get started, we're going to highlight one productivity tool you could use to be more productive. This podcast feature tool is OneSec, an app I recently downloaded to boost my productivity. OneSec is available on both Apple and Android devices and helps you become more mindful about how you spend your time. The app works by interrupting impulsive habits like automatically opening social media apps with a brief pause. For instance, I've set it up so that every time I try to open Instagram, I'm redirected to a 3-second breathing exercise. While I could still access Instagram afterward, the pause gives me a moment to reflect. Do I really want to spend time on this app right now, or should I focus on something more productive? This simple but effective approach has helped me reduce distractions and stay aligned with my goals. If you're looking for an easy way to manage your screen time, I highly recommend giving OneSec a try. Give it a try and see how you could reclaim your focus. It's called OneSec, 2 words spelled out. Alright, let's dive into today's topic. Our guest speaker is once again Dr. Vineet Agrawal, and we'll be discussing stress, anxiety, and emotions, how to cope with them, and whether they're really as bad as people often think. Dr. Agrawal is a seasoned general surgeon and former education solutions manager at Johnson & Johnson India. In 2023, he launched Clues, a training company specializing in selling skills for medical device sales teams. Currently, he serves as a consultant facilitator at the International Academy of Transformative Leadership, where he plays a key role in designing and delivering the Transformative Listening program. Trained under Maitreya Dadashriji, Dr. Agrawal has undergone a profound personal transformation and now helps others achieve the same. Beyond his professional endeavors, Dr. Agrawal is deeply involved with Maitri Bodh Parivar, where he contributes to team training events and project execution. He's passionate about helping people discover inner silence and emotional stability, and has developed a unique listening service called I Listen You. Tune in to hear how Dr. Agrawal blends his medical expertise with transformative leadership to guide individuals toward a more centered and fulfilling life. Welcome to this episode of Stress Uncovered, the good, the bad, and the unexpected. Welcome to the Productive Mind podcast. Imagine this. It's the night before the biggest tennis match of the season, and you're juggling more than just your racket. You've got an exam tomorrow, a brutal one. Your notes are scattered across your desk, the clock is ticking, and every word you read feels like it's slipping through your fingers. On top of that, your phone buzzes with another message from your girlfriend, an argument that's been simmering all day. Your chest tightens, your mind races, and oh yeah, that match, it's against the number 1 seed. We've all had days like this one way or another, where physical, emotional, and mental stress hit like a perfect storm. But here's the twist. Stress isn't always the enemy. That rush of adrenaline as you step onto the court, it sharpens your focus. The pressure, it pushes you to dig deep, find another gear, maybe even ace that test of willpower. Stress is complicated. It could drive you forward or drag you down. And today, we're unpacking how to manage it, flip it into something positive, and maybe even learn to embrace it. So, during this podcast, we're going to determine whether stress and anxiety is an enemy or friend, and realize how we could respond to, control, and use it to our advantage to go a long way. Dr. Agrawal, what role do you see stress and anxiety play in people's lives, and why do you think this topic is so important?
So the first part of the question is, what is the role of stress in people's life? So there's a very famous story on the coast of Japan. So there was these villagers, and they used to go to the coast, fish, and eat fresh fish at the beach. And the taste was amazing of that fish. Then they realized, or they thought that, uh, why don't we take this fish and sell it in the market? So they caught the fish, took it to the market just close by, and started selling it. But they realized the taste was not the same. The taste of the fish changed a little bit. So then they kept thinking, what was the reason? So said, okay, let us keep the fish in water. We'll catch the fish, keep it in water, and then sell it, live fish. So they tried that, but then again they found that the taste was still a little different. It was not as good as catching it fresh and eating it. So then they thought, okay, let's get a big container and use seawater and keep the fish in seawater in a bigger tank, and then let's hope the taste will remain the same. So they tried that, but still the taste was not as good as on the beach. Then finally someone had a realization, and they said, okay, let's have the tank with the seawater, and along with the small fish, let's put a shark inside. So they did that, and then they sold it in the market. Then the taste was same. So the difference in all of this was the element of stress. So when there is stress around you, you are very active. There is things you have to do. Your muscles are active, your mind is active, your whole body is active. So when you eat that fresh fish, you get that whole life and the whole vigor of the fish, compared to you when you keep it in water, regular water, and there is no aim or purpose. There is no reason for the fish to fight for survival. So you lose that vigor in life. So stress is what keeps you alive. It what makes you do things in life. That's the role stress has. Now, unfortunately, what has happened in the world outside, that everything is being labeled as stress. That I'm stressed. Even the smallest difficulty that you face in life, people just start labeling, okay, I'm stressed, and this is too much for me. So that is what is happening. The people's mindset towards stress has changed, and they started seeing it as something bad. It's something that they shouldn't have in their life. And also the capacity to deal with stress has reduced. So even with a slight inconvenience or challenge, they tend to just give up, and they would seek medication, help, support. So this is what I'm seeing personally in the world outside.
So before we kind of delve deeper into this topic, when you mentioned people experiencing stress in all these scenarios, would you mind being able to define stress for us? What does it mean to be stressed?
Yeah, so I think that's very important for us to define it. If you see the physics definition, the stress is simply the force or pressure applied on an object. And when we talk about it in human terms, it is the response to a challenging situation, right? So something happens to you, and then how you respond to it. And then okay, there is some stress that you have to deal with. When we look at human beings, you can see stress as different layers. So you have the physical part of stress, you have the mental part of stress, and there's emotional. So physical stress, all of us are aware of, right? If you walk for, let's say, 10 miles, or if you run for 5 miles, you will feel that physical stress. You'll be tired. Mental stress is, there are situations where you have to think a lot. You're tired, you're fatigued mentally. You run out of ideas, you run out of energy to process information. So all that is mental stress. And then there's emotional stress. So there are times when you feel great, but there are times when there is some pain, there is some hurt, um, feelings which are unpleasant. and you don't know how to handle that. And that is also a level of stress. So, in the society outside, people understand physical stress very well. They know that, okay, if I'm physically tired, I need to rest. And if I eat something, and I will be back to normal physical levels and I can again get into the stress. The mental level, people now know that if I have to deal with mental stress, there is things like mindfulness, meditation, and other practices which help you calm your mind. And then emotional stress, people don't know. So when you are hurt, when you are in pain, uh, nobody is out there teaching you how to deal with that emotional stress, and you just have to figure a way out. And that is what is causing a lot of uncertainty today, because the level of emotional stress has increased. If you see COVID and then all the changes in the way we socialize with people, the way we connect with people, the level of safety one feels in the United States. So all that is impacting at the emotional level, and people don't know how to deal with that.
You mentioned that people today are defining they're considering themselves more stressed than they need to be. Like they're
Mm.
saying about situations that might not really be stressful by like your definition. They're
Yeah.
calling them stressful. So how might that outlook or that I don't know desire to just like be stressed? How might that be like unhealthy for people?
Yes. So there was a very interesting study done in America for 30,000 people over 10 years. And they studied that they two groups of people, and both groups were subjected to a high amount of stress. And the difference in the two groups was, one group thought stress is bad and one group thought stress is good. And then they studied the life and death and so on. And what they found was, people who have a high amount of stress and they feel stress is bad have a 43% increased chance of dying from a heart related issue, compared to those who have stress but they think stress is good. So there are physiological changes which happen in your heart when you start seeing stress as bad. So the blood supply to your heart reduces, and then all those changes happen over years. So there is enough documentation and evidence to show that just the way you view stress has an impact. So stress is not going to go away. There is nobody on earth who does not have stress in their life in some way or the other. It's about how you can change your mindset. That is one. And second is, how can we increase our capacity to handle more stress in our life?
So how does somebody change their perspective on stress and turn it into something positive for them?
Yes. So one way is if you go, you go on YouTube and Google, you will find people talking about affirmations that stand in front of the mirror every day and say, stress is good, stress is good, stress is good. But that's not going to help you much, right? Because you're still fighting with your thoughts. So the way to approach to change the mindset is, will take a few steps. So let's look at each of those: physical, mental, emotional, understand what it takes to change your mindset. Now, both of you work out, I believe, go to the
Yes.
gym,
Yes.
right? So what is that?
Well, physical.
That's also physical
Yeah.
stress,
Yeah.
right?
Physical.
You are subjecting your body willingly to stress. You want your muscles to break down. So why do you go through that pain? Why do you go through that stress when you go to the gym?
To be stronger, to feel healthier afterwards.
Yes. So stress, so if you see how muscles grow, when you are in the gym, your muscles are not growing. So when you're in that stress, your muscles are breaking apart, they're tearing. And when you rest, your muscles again repair themselves and become stronger, right? So that period of stress is important for you to exercise and to train yourself. And once the stress is over, there is a huge growth. Now, same applies to mental and emotional also. So people right now, physically, okay, you have trained yourself, you have experienced that your body will recover. And if you go into the gym for 45 minutes, 1 hour, you are exhausted, but your body will recover with some sleep. Now, same is true for mental stress. When you go through mental stress, or that is a lot of thoughts that you have to process, that period is maybe not the time for growth. That's where you're training. You have an opportunity to train yourself, that what is it that I can do when I'm experiencing these thoughts. Once that phase is over, you have a window of rest, mental rest, and that is where your growth happens. Now, physically, you're able to take rest because if you sleep, you will get the rest that you need. Mentally, people struggle with rest. So it's not like they have a switch, they can just turn off their thoughts and then allow your mind to develop. So you have to actively do things which help you reduce your thoughts. So if you have to move towards changing your mindset of stress is good, whenever there are windows where it's not too many thoughts, so you are able to think more clearly, what are you doing to take rest mentally, right? So it could be anything. It could be going for a walk, it could be listening to music, it could be any activity that you enjoy where you're not thinking. So you're just involved in that activity, fully immersed. You lose sense of time, you lose sense of space, and you're just there. And that gives you mental rest. So whenever you have periods of mental rest, that will allow your mind to develop more. So next time when you face mental stress, right, too many thoughts, decisions to make, you will find that you have more strength because you have the ability now to go into rest. So rest, recovery, then again you think. So that's why when you sleep, you wake up, I hope people wake up fresh and they're able to think better in the morning, if you're a morning person. So that sleep kind of processes a lot of things. Your brain goes through a cleansing, your REM, non-REM sleep, and then you're able to think clearly, right? But it's possible to do that without sleep also, right? You can't always go to sleep if you are having all these thoughts. So you have to figure out a mechanism where you are able to willingly take a mental break. And then there's the emotional part, which is even more tricky. We cannot decide which emotion we are going to feel at what point. You could be going about your day and suddenly you feel somebody says something and then you get upset, right? You're hurt. But you didn't decide that. It just happened in your day. And we haven't trained ourselves to handle those moments. That when I get a rise in my emotions, which may be not supportive, then what do I do? Right? So that is another training or steps that you have to take to change that mindset that stress is good. Because when someone says something to you, or amongst friends there's some fight, how much time are you spending being upset, right? So you have no control over that. Those emotions keep coming and you keep spiraling down. Your thoughts change. You start thinking negative, that my friends doesn't like me, or I don't have good friends, and it can keep going on and on. So same way, when you're feeling those emotions, that is also like a gym. It's like a workout. So most people try to fight it. They either fight it, that I don't want to feel this way. So they will distract themselves and try to do something else. But that feeling or that emotion will still be there. And when you try to distract and suppress it, it's getting stored in your body, and it'll just burst out. I don't know if you've experienced this, but if you keep suppressing your emotions, there'll be a time when there's a very small trigger. Someone just said something very randomly to you, but you just exploded uh, because you've experienced that so many times, and there was no outlet, and you just burst out like a volcano. So because you've been suppressing that. So think of unpleasant emotions as also gym, like when you go to workout. So you are there fully in the workout, you're doing exercises, you're experiencing the pain, you're willingly going and subjecting yourself to pain. So you have to allow in that moment when you have those emotions to fully feel and experience those emotions, because nothing will last forever. If some emotion has come, it will go away on its own without you doing anything. So do you have that capacity to allow that emotion to pass? And once you build that, next time you'll be able to handle a stronger emotion, next time a stronger emotion. But if you keep fighting it, then you'll still be at that same level. That any inconvenience happens, and again you are in the same situation. So for physical stress, we understand you have to work out and rest. We understand that mentally you have to figure out ways where you can switch off or completely focus on one activity. And for emotional, two things that you can do is, one, every day do things that you love. So when you spend time doing things that you love, you are filling yourself with a lot of positive energy, and that is going to fight with how you're feeling if you're not feeling great. And second is helping others. So when you help others, there is a natural uh, way in which you receive a lot of positive energy. So these two things, helping someone and doing things that you love every day, is going to support you and make you emotionally strong. So all these then will change your mindset over time that stress is good. And there'll be a point where you start looking forward to stress, that I want more challenging situations. And I can give like my example. Sometimes things get very boring, right? So things are happening and same things are happening every day. And I am feeling like terribly bored because there's nothing exciting happening. But whenever there's a challenge, I feel excited that, okay, now I have some opportunity uh, to grow, to experience something. And those are like, I think being stressed is more exciting for me than not being stressed.
Yeah, I agree with that. I feel like during the summers where I don't have as much going on, I don't feel as fulfilled. But like during school where I'm always like high stress, while I do complain about it, it's also something that makes me happy because I have a lot to do. I feel like I'm accomplishing something at the end of every day because of the stress. So
I really like the idea of the growth doesn't necessarily come from the stress itself. It comes from the period after, where you
Yes.
try to learn from your stress, kind of get a good understanding of what you're going through, and then kind of take the next steps in order to be able to better cope with that stress later. I also like the gym idea. I feel like, or gym analogy, a lot of people know the right steps to recover from the gym, whether it's taking protein, hydrating,
Yeah.
getting good rest. But when they go through something like a really hard exam or just have emotional stress, they don't really take any steps. They kind of just move on to the next scenario or just go to bed and hope everything gets better the next day. So I think it's a really good point that we should take the time to kind of recover from those kind of stresses as well. If you don't mind, if we could step back a minute, I'm having a hard time understanding the difference between mental stress and emotional stress. What's the kind of difference between the two, and would you be able to provide an example?
Yes. So let's say you are angry about something, right? So that's an emotion. Either you have elevated or evolved yourself to a capacity where you are experiencing anger is just anger. right? You understand, okay, I am angry, and I need to allow it to pass. Okay. But for most people, what happens is when there's anger, one, you feel it physically. Your heart rate is going to increase. You're going to start sweating. Your muscles are going to be shaking. Like you want to take some action, right? And at the same time, there will be a flood of thoughts along with the anger that either you want to harm somebody or you want to harm yourself. Okay, only two types of thoughts will be there. So harming someone else is, it could be verbally, it could be physically, could be emotionally, or harming yourself, where you are going to do something destructive uh, to kind of get rid of the anger. So the thoughts which come with the anger is the mental part of the stress. And the emotion that you experience is the emotional stress. Now, if there are repetitive thoughts that you get, right? And this is what happens in, let's say, depression or anxiety. People have same type of thoughts all the time. So repetitive thoughts are usually linked to an emotion that they have not addressed or they have not explored fully. And unless you reach there, your mental component will not resolve. So a lot of us stay at the mental stress level. We are only able to observe our thoughts because it's like being bombarded to you. And the true emotion gets lost. So that's why, you also may be struggling to create that differentiation between mental stress and emotional stress, because our level of awareness at the moment is mental stress. Okay, I know that thoughts are coming. I'm thinking. But the moment you try to shift your focus, that why am I getting these thoughts? What is the source of these thoughts? There's a challenge, because we have not trained ourselves to go beyond the thoughts and go to that emotion. So this is the difference. And the emotional stress is much more powerful than mental stress, because the way you feel emotionally is going to dictate how you're thinking. The reverse is very difficult, that you're feeling sad, but you think positive and try to change the sadness to happiness. That does not happen. So that's why focus for stress. So people talk about, in the world outside, people are still talking about at the mental level, that change your thoughts, or change the way you think. But the root of that is again in the emotions. So if you're able to address that, so we discussed two things, which was uh, doing something that you love and helping others. So that's going to somewhere try to regulate your emotions and help you experience more of the positive or pleasant emotions.
Got it. Okay. That makes sense. Thank you.
So what I'm understanding, you're saying that like people, so you talked about how people want to reduce their stress, they kind of run away from it and they don't face their emotions. So to turn stress into something positive, into something productive, you're saying that people need to like face that stress or confront it. So it's like what I keep thinking of as you're speaking is like somebody that gets like stage fright or whatever, like having to speak in front of a lot of people. And people tend to avoid that. They're like, I don't want to go speak in front of everybody. But then they never improve. They're never able to get over that until they actually do it. Correct? Is that kind of what you're
Yes.
saying?
So, so we can take that example. That's a very good example. So people have stage fright, right? So that emotion there is fear, right? So the fear of what now? Now it could be multiple layers. It could be fear of being embarrassed, fear of rejection, that if you go up there, what will people say? Fear of not uh, being up to the mark for yourself, that am I worth it, or am I good enough? Fear of unknown, that what will happen when I go on the stage. So all these fears are playing out, right? But the basic is the emotion of fear, right? And fear is common. And then you have the layer of thoughts, that what will the audience think? Uh, what will if I trip, what will happen? Or if I miss a few words, what will happen? So this is the mental stress going on. And physically, of course, when you go on the stage, if it's your first time, you'll be shivering a little bit, or you will be not very
Your
comfortable.
heart rate goes up.
Yeah, heart rate goes up. So many things happen. And but a lot of times, the moment you go on the stage and you experience the situation, you realize it's not such a big deal. It's just walking on the stage and talking. But to take that first step, to stay with your fear and understand, okay, this fear is there, but I still need to move ahead. So that's the practice you need to build. That's the training. That irrespective of what emotion you're experiencing, can you still take action? So that's like going to gym. I know that I'm going to experience pain in the gym, but I'm still showing up every day. So same way, when you have emotions which are becoming a block, the practice you need to do practically is take action. And then you will realize that, okay, this situation is not exactly what I thought it would be. It's much easier maybe. And that's also helps you develop your capacity. So now you'll be more confident next time more confident, and then you'll be an expert.
So this is the idea of, to overcome a fear, you just have to face it over and over again.
Yeah, it sounds cliche, but you have to take action. That's the only way to fight fear.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I feel like not starting out too strong too. Like when you go to the gym, you start with like lighter weights and you build your way up. So obviously somebody shouldn't go out in front of like 1,000 people for their first time if they're like speaking to a crowd. It should always start off small, and it'll make it easier to confront those feelings and confront that stress along the way.
Yes. Yeah. So in your life, you could classify stress as, let's say, expected stress and unexpected stress. So expected stresses, you have your exams, you have your classes, you have your things that you have decided to do, your goals, all that is expected stress. You have decided that. And unexpected stress is event situations which happen in your life, which are out of your control. So the question you have to ask for yourself is, am I preparing myself enough to handle expected stress in my life? Right? Because you can't like plan and prepare for unexpected stress. So are you doing the right things for expected stress? So for example, physically building yourself, like when you go to the gym or you exercise, any kind of exercise, you are preparing your body to handle more stress, right? So for example, you have the ability to sit for a longer time when you're giving exams, etc., and your muscles will support you because you've been to the gym and you know what it feels like to be physically exhausted like that. Mentally, you know that you have to focus, you have to think. There are times like to learn something new, right? All your different subjects and so on. So how are you preparing yourself to handle, let's say, 45 minutes of stress, mental stress? So 45 minutes you decide, I'm going to study with full focus, and then 15 minutes break. So are you training yourself to be able to focus irrespective of what your thoughts are? Okay. And emotionally also, are you preparing yourself? So there will be times where, for example, you are in your classes, you're learning a subject, but the subject, you're just not getting it, right? You're not able to learn the subject. The concept is very difficult. And how do you feel? Do you feel you're not good enough? Do you feel dejected? Do you feel less confident? So those are all at the emotional level, which play in your mind. So that again is training. So in spite of those emotions, can you still show up and put your effort to learn something? So all that, you are then preparing yourself for expected stress. And when you prepare for expected stress, you will have more capacity to deal with unexpected stress. And the challenge I see today in a lot of people and youth also, they complain about expected stress also. So any kind of thought which is not pleasant, people call that a negative thought, they don't want it in their life. Any beginning of those kind of thoughts, they go to medications. That for them, I don't know how it's happened, but for them it's like negative thoughts should not be part of my life. So anxiety is not normal according to them, and that is what is. So it's like the baseline for what anxiety is just dropped, and even the slightest of discomfort is okay. I'm anxious and I need help, but that's not how life is. You're going to feel, you're going to experience much and much more of these kind of patterns and thoughts. And if you keep going to medications at the slightest of discomfort, it's like taking steroids instead of putting the effort in the gym. And there is going to be side effects and repercussions of that.
So you don't consider taking medication as like confronting that stress?
Yeah. So see, I'm not the expert of in psychology or psychiatry, uh, but there is a lot of now literature, a lot of evidence to support non-medicated ways of dealing with stress and anxiety. And if you look at any medicine, right, any medicine which is meant to deal with stress or anxiety or depression, the function of those medication is to alter the state of your mind. So your brain becomes dull, kind of. Your thought levels reduce, your response becomes slow, and that they consider as helpful because you're not having that chain of thoughts and you're able to kind of be stable. But then you're taking away your capacity to improve yourself. This is all my personal opinion. So same example of steroids. So when you take steroids and you work out, you may become big, but that's not your effort. It is something that was given by someone else, and the moment it is gone, you will not be able to reach the same level, and again you will suffer. And you can't be taking steroids your whole life. There's a lot of side effects which happens. The same way with medication. There are cases where you do need medication, right? Depends on the diagnosis and how extreme it is. But your aim should be that what's the fastest I can reduce or stop my medication. And if you are on medication, plan your transition, that if I want to stop medication, what is it that I'm doing to train myself? So all the things we discussed at the physical, mental, emotional level, what steps are you taking that you become stronger? And automatically your requirement of medication will also reduce.
Got it. Okay. So I think that's a good understanding of the different kinds of stress. And I really like the gym analogy once again to kind of compare it to physical stress that I think everybody is really accustomed to. So as we're kind of talking about this, you're using stress and anxiety kind of interchangeably.
Hmm.
So let's kind of transition to the idea of anxiety. Is that the same thing as stress?
Yes. So anxiety is mental stress. So what people, what we're talking about as mental stress, people outside call it as anxiety. So there's worry and anxiety. So worrying is, you keep thinking about the same thing. What will happen? What will happen? What will happen? And that's your own dialogue. And anxiety is you are somewhere influenced by the environment also. And you keep getting into this space that you're dominated by these thoughts, right? And anxiety comes with its own physical uh, manifestations also, same as anger, that you'll be trembling or you are fidgety and you're very restless. So that's what people label as anxiety, but it's all happening in the mind.
Okay. So now seeing anxiety from a kind of positive perspective,
Mm.
how do we find the difference between or determine the difference between anxiety and excitement? How do we?
Yes. So the same area of your brain which makes you feel anxious is also the area which is responsible for being excited. So if you talk to athletes, or if you talk to those who are in sports, like let's say football, and there was I saw a video. So there was a journalist or a TV reporter, and they were asking the player that, are you nervous about today's game? He said, no, I'm very excited. So uh, being nervous and being excited is same. It's just that it's how you think about it. If you focus on the negative, that what am I going to do and how will it play out, you're just being nervous. But if you really are passionate about the game, y- you're okay with any outcome. You want to give your best, so you'll be excited. So people outside will usually try to put the negative connotation on that set of emotions and set of thoughts, and they label it as anxiety or nervousness. But the same thing happens when you're excited also. So it's again changing that mindset of stress is good, stress is bad. And we've already discussed how you can change that mindset at physical, mental, emotional level. So same thing applies from being anxious to excited.
That's like a technique or something I try and practice. Like one of my favorite quotes is like turn nerves into excitement. So it relates exactly to what you say. And I try and remind myself of that too before I go into like a nervous situation.
Yes. Yeah. So you said something that I try to remind myself that it is excitement, right?
Yeah.
So what helps you remind yourself that you have to think like that? So that again goes back to your training. That have you trained yourself enough in that situation that this thought will come that this is not anxiety, this is excitement.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Agrawal, for sharing your insight about stress. So could you just give us a summary about everything we kind of talked about before we wrap up?
Sure. So you can see stress two types. You have expected stress in your life and unexpected. Expected is your goals, your if you're a student in your studies and so on. Prepare for your expected stress so you can deal with unexpected stress. You can see stress at various levels: physical, mental, emotional. At the physical level, pretty straightforward. You have your exercise, nutrition, sleep. At a mental level, you have to figure out how to take breaks, right? Intentionally have breaks where you're not thinking so much. Emotional level, invest in activities that you love every day and help others. Now, if I have to, suppose it's too much for you, right? Doing all of these. So, if one thing that, one activity which covers all of this, and personally I follow that too, is exercise. And for me, it's the gym, but for others, it could be any form of exercise. Exercise can teach you all these levels. So, physically, of course, very obvious. Mentally, showing up at the gym every day is a task, right? Reaching the door and going through the door. There are days where you just don't feel like it, and you're like tired of the pain and the soreness, and but you still have to do. So you are building your capacity at a mental level. Emotionally, if you're a natural, then you'll spend 1 year at the gym and there'll be no gains, right? And you're wondering, is this even working for me? Should I even continue this? So those kind of emotions also you have to keep fighting. So I think exercise and gym is one place it can train you to handle all types of stress in your life. So if there's nothing else you can do, at least go to the gym.
Thank you so much. This has been incredibly useful for me.
Yeah, thank you so much. I feel like I also learned a lot.
As we wrap up, let's leave you with a quote to remember this episode by. This quote is by Donald Tupsing, an author and stress management expert, and it perfectly summarizes this episode and the idea of coping with and understanding stress and anxiety. He says, stress is like spice. In the right proportion, it enhances the flavor of the dish. Too little produces a bland, dull meal, and too much may choke you. Until next time, stay productive, positive, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next episode.